Hey guys, Spirit of the Law here. In this video, we're going to look at a very fun mod I've been enjoying recently called 10x Shared Civ Bonus. It's basically what it sounds like, where everyone on your team combines their usual civ bonuses, but then they're all multiplied by 10. So, for example, everyone's foot archers on a Briton player's team get plus 10 range in Castle Age, another plus 10 in Imperial, and another plus 10 when the Britons get Yeoman, as unique techs are also multiplied and shared. Elite upgrades to unique units then give 10 times the regular effect, so Elite Longbowman's plus 1 attack, Pierce Armor, and range are all plus 10 in this case, with another 50 HP, ending up with absurdly high range in particular. And as you can imagine, elite unique units are often some of your strongest. Now there are some different versions of the mod with their own interpretations and balanced choices here, and I'm using the Hex version as it's quite popular and seems to be updated regularly. Now I admit this may all seem quite similar to 9 times or 256 times tech mods, but in practice it's actually very different, as you don't start with a generic Dark Age and then research the same text over and over, and instead the absurdity begins immediately and is automatic, with civ choice also potentially being much more impactful. Keep in mind that anything giving a 10% discount or more then means that thing is free, for example scouts on a Magyar team or archers on a Mayan one. Partly for those reasons, the typical settings are on 4v4 Amazon Tunnel, Michi, or Forest Nothing, so the game doesn't end in a silly spearman or scout rush. Conventionally, hosts also demand random civ choice as well, but in this video, we're going to look at which civilizations are luckiest to roll with and are my personal favorites. We'll start by highlighting the top 10 that make up my S tier, which I find give a nice combination of very strong bonuses and are also just some of the most fun to use. With that, we'll open things up with the Bengalis. Immediately upon hitting feudal in later ages, they get 20 free villagers, though the version I'm using doesn't share this bonus with allies, as one of the only examples of a bonus not being shared for being so overpowered. Bengali elephants then receive no bonus damage, fire 200% faster or 3 times the usual rate after the unique tech, with their elite wrath in melee mode also having massive 5-range splash damage. Maybe their most fun aspect for players who love booming though, is after their Imperial Age unique tech, the whole team's villagers take up 0 pop space. So even after getting a minimum of 60 free villagers, and even more if you make multiple town centers in Castle Age, you can still put your entire population into military units, along with everyone else on your team. Next up, we have the Byzantines. The game breaker here is their elite Cataphract, which after Logistica has just ridiculous unblockable trample damage that can win the game on its own. Even before that very late stage though, they give massive HP to the team's buildings, up to 5 times the usual amount, with then completely free camels, skirmishers, and spear units for the whole team. Plus, everyone's Imperial Age advance costs nothing. Really though, we are here for the Cataphract, which ends up with over 500 HP, more than 50 resistance to anti-cavalry bonus damage, plus 39 bonus against infantry, and 10 times its usual trample damage over a huge area. The combo of free units for rushing and a contender for the most OP unique unit put them easily in my S tier. Moving on, we have a very popular one next when theory crafting OP civ combos, in the Celts. It's hard to pick a favorite aspect here, from the super speedy infantry, to lumberjacks, siege firing over 3 times the usual rate with up to 5 times the usual HP, and everyone's castles firing over 4 times as fast as usual from a unique tech. Civs with this many small percentage increases get a little ridiculous in this mod, and especially if you can stack them with a civ giving another infantry siege or castle bonus, like say Koreans giving your onager line plus 10 range, or Franks making your castles completely free. Celts just find nice ways to synergize with other civilizations. Next up, we have undoubtedly the craziest start though, with the Chinese. Their usual plus 3 villagers is instead plus 30 for everyone on your team, though with the drawback of starting in the hole 1800 food and 300 wood. Given your immediate 120 villager lead over the other team in a 4v4 start, that's definitely worth the cost, and isn't even where the Chinese advantages end. Their tech discount of 10% in feudal age means at that point every tech is completely free for the whole team, including spies by the way. The Chukanu also ends up being quite strong, and with its elite upgrade fires a very impressive 23 total projectiles per shot. Moving on, we have another very strong civilization to roll, this time the Goths. Obviously, all infantry being free for the entire game for your whole team can lead to a ridiculous militia rush, and keep in mind the whole team's infantry gain plus 10 bonus versus buildings after each age up, along with super fast working barracks, speeding up even more with perfusion. Anarchy then also applies to the whole team, giving everyone free, nearly instantly created elite Huskarls, and remember plus 100 to your pop limits in Imperial Age. That means potentially 300 free elite Huskarls per player, which can then be instantly replaced in the late game, having 34 attack plus 30 more against buildings and massive pierce armor, on top of whatever other bonuses your allies contribute. Along with Chinese, they might be the most broken civ, and seem to get a lot of quick wins. Next up, we have the Hindustanis. The most obvious bonus here is the 80% discounted villagers in Dark Age becoming completely free after Feudal, with a ton of bonus damage on their camels and scouts for unusually high early pressure as well. What makes them S tier for me though is their late game units, between the super long reaching elite Ghulam, the Imperial Camel which becomes shared for the whole team, having greatly enhanced stats for that upgrade along with plus 20 bonus damage versus buildings, and then the 27 range and 14 armor on hand cannoneers. Just like an unmodded AoE2, I see their strength as the ultimate counter civ to many unique units, while also giving the team a flexible eco boost. In terms of raw early game speed though, we have to talk about the Malay. If you thought over 60% faster advancing was pretty quick, imagine over 600% faster, opening up dozens of meme strategies. With Khmer and Italian allies, you can quite literally be in Imperial Age before you finish your first house, and you then have completely free battle elephants, bottlenecked only by how quickly you can build a large number of houses and stables. That said, in the late game, the battle elephants are generic, and the elite Karambit warrior stats don't really keep up with many elite units, so you'll largely rely on your allies' bonuses to find a nice late game option. On the complete other end of the spectrum in that regard, next we come to the Persians. They start everyone off with 500 extra wood and food, then giving town centers with up to triple the usual work rate by Imperial Age. Like Malay, that can help with quicker advancing, but what really pushes them into S tier is the elite War Elephant, with almost 2,000 hit points each. Worth noting as well is the Savar replaces the Paladin upgrade for the whole team, and gets in on the 10x unique upgrade boost, making it a very good anti-archer option. Plus, just for fun, the Caravanserai gives 10 times its regular effect as well, so your trade units make ridiculous amounts of gold, moving at nearly the speed of Cobra cars. Next up though, we have the Romans, making it here largely because of their super firing scorpions, which also cost 0 gold. Combining that with Khmer for plus 10 range is probably one of the most coveted pairings you can have, but even ignoring their machine gun scorpions, the whole team has 50% faster working and building villagers, which is always a huge boost. You then get massive amounts of armor on infantry from each blacksmith upgrade, plus the legionary for the whole team, with its stat improvements over longswords being multiplied by 10. And last but not least, we'll finish out the S tier with the Poles. Their farming bonus means dropping off 80% of the farm's food instantly beside Folwarks, and you can either let the farmer finish off the last bit of food or just delete the farm and place another one for more instant food. You also get a ton of gold from stone you're mining, which all leads you to advance quickly to your secret weapon, the Winged Hussar, with extreme trample damage after a unique tech. It's cheap considering your farming income, has a huge bonus against a lot of the strongest gunpowder unique units in the late game, and a bonus against archers, melting anything that gets close. You need a fairly experienced team for everyone to know how to make use of the farming bonus, but the potential as a top tier choice is definitely there. So that's my personal S tier list, and the ones I'm most excited when I roll. Though there are so many good ones, let's just do my A tier as well. These ones are also very strong in my experience, but I just find either a little more boring for my playstyle or a bit more situational. Doing this tier alphabetically as well, we'll start with the Berbers. Obviously amazing is the 50% faster villager speed in Dark Age, turning into double the movement speed in Feudal, which helps a ton with getting around the map with sneaky villagers, which they follow up with completely free stable units for the whole team starting in Castle Age. A couple of other things late are then faster working team castles, which are great for all those elite unique units, and their elite camel archers, which regenerate 150 HP per minute. This one's mostly about the free knights and elephants for me, but super speed villagers are also just a lot of fun. Moving on, next we have the Bohemians. They get out to a very slow start, and are really here because of these super fast and tanky gunpowder units. They do contribute to the team a bit economically with very quickly produced trade cards and potentially high HP and even faster villagers than Berbers in the late game, but are just a bit too slow for S tier. Next up, of course, we have to include the Britons. In addition to town centers only costing stone and super working shepherds to start, how can you not love plus 30 range on everyone's archers, with archery ranges then working twice as fast for the whole team? That said, while archers are king in tech stacking mods, I think there's a risk in overestimating the impact of range, as unlike 256 times mod, that range doesn't come with an equal amount of attack through stacking fletching. While they're still a lot of fun, if you expect them to be S tier, wait until you run up against a unit with good Pierce armor and several hundred HP. Even Britain's plus the Ethiopians bonus together isn't always a winning formula, though sometimes it can be. Moving on though, we have the Gurjars. They have a few interesting early bonuses, like very quickly producing food from herdables in mills, and mounted units like camels and elephants have up to 5 times the usual bonus damage. In Castle Age, a unique tech then removes the food cost from all military units, though what personally elevates them to A tier for me are their unique units, with the Elite Chakram Thrower featuring a 15 range pass-through melee attack, and the Elite Trivamsha Rider, which can ignore the first 27 incoming arrows. Next up, we have the Incas. They also remove the entire food cost of units for the whole team, give villagers massive amounts of attack and armor from blacksmith techs, houses support 55 pop each, and everyone can build as many castles as they like for free. There's a lot to love here, with very high armor eagles as well, with the main thing I think holding them back being the elite Kamiuk isn't that great, so I find them a better support civ for others than a wrecking ball in and of themselves. Another very nice teammate is then the Malayans. In addition to no wood cost on most buildings, barracks units having up to plus 30 pierce armor, and double the gold income from mining, they greatly support cavalry players, with plus 50 attack, plus give everyone's town centers 80 extra passive arrows for defense. My favorite part though might be their Gebeto, dealing 42 melee damage from 15 range, which, especially with a Japanese ally, combines fast movement speed, long range, and just a ton of melee damage. Next up, I'm going with the Mayans. They give the whole team free archers and walls along with plus 10 villagers at the start of the game. 17 range plumed archers and plus 400 HP on eagle warriors is nothing to sneeze at, and resources lasting 2.5 times as long as usual is also a nice bonus as well. Moving on, next we have to mention the Mongols. They feature cavalry archers firing 3.5 times the usual rate, along with cavalry having up to 4 times the standard HP, and hunters working 5 times faster than usual, making aging up pretty quick. Drill is also a great tech here, but for me this one's all about the 30 attack Magadai, and they're over 600 shots per minute. Moving on, we have one you might not immediately think of being A tier, but I personally love, with the Portuguese. Their bonuses are solid, removing the gold cost of all units, generating a lot of wood from foragers, and having all technologies researched quickly for the whole team. Those are good, but my 2 favorite things about them are first the Fedorias, which work 10 times faster, and even just 1 for each player on the team makes resources really no longer an issue, especially considering you barely need gold at all. The second aspect I love is the Elite Organ Gun, with 6 projectiles all dealing 26 damage, making it among the highest damage output units in the mod. In Imperial Age, they snowball hard, especially with a Spanish ally, giving that unit an even faster fire rate. In fact, speaking of which, to close out the A tier, let's hop next door from Portugal to Spain. They would probably make A tier just for the 10 times supremacy memes, but that's far from their most important contribution to the team. Instead, what I love is the 300% boost to their builders, building everything at 4 times the usual rate. That can be huge for getting walls, castles, military buildings, and houses up quickly, removing a lot of bottlenecks on bonuses that depend on villager construction. Everyone also gets 200 gold for every technology they research, way more gold from trade cards, plus everyone's gunpowder units fire about triple the usual rate, which applies to the Elite Conquistador, giving you a great unit to shoot for. In truth, there's many more civilizations I could throw in here, with incredibly impactful bonuses or unique units, but at the least, I think we're off to a good start with the list we have. If you guys like the idea of the mod, I could also share some of my favorite and most broken team combo ideas in another video, which is definitely too much to squeeze into this one. Things like the Roman and Khmer Scorpions are an obvious example, and I also personally like the Malayan and Japanese combo with the super firing Elite Gebeto and just tons of arrows coming from all of your buildings. I wouldn't mind putting together a list of the funniest and strongest combos for making different types of units. I highly recommend checking it out in the unranked lobby, and hopefully this gives you a bit of a leg up on that learning curve. That'll do it for this one though. Thanks for watching guys, and I'll see you next time.